Welcome back, guys. In this video, we're going to talk about the key intraday times of the trading day. This information is absolutely critical for building algos that trade on the lower time frames, such as the 4 hour, the 1 hour, or even lower time frames. I'll also be showing you a simple way to handle daylight saving changes, which can be sometimes tricky to manage. So let's start straight in. I've already introduced you to the first important trading time of the day, which is the Tokyo fix at 9:55 AM Tokyo time. And here we have a great example of the hump shape pattern that we discussed in the Tokyo fix video, with the yen being manipulated weaker into the fix and then strengthening after the fix. Now, you won't see such a nice clean pattern every time, but when there is an imbalance in the bank's order books, this is the pattern that generally occurs. Let's move on to the next key time now, and that's the Tokyo option cut, which occurs at 3 PM Tokyo time. There are two main times that forex options are set to expire. The first one is this Tokyo cut, and then the next one is the New York cut, which occurs at 10 AM New York time. I'll be talking about these option expiry times a bit more in a future video. But for now, just know that you will tend to see a spike in volume during these times, and that the market can be heavily manipulated during these times, especially if there are large option expiries that day. The next one is probably the most important time of the trading day, and that's the London Open, which occurs at 8 AM London time. This is when the market really wakes up. You'll see a pickup in trading activity and the price moves become larger. There are many strategies and algos which trade purely based on the movements around the London Open, such as popular London breakout strategies. If you have a favorite London Open strategy, feel free to let me know in the comments below, and I might select one to code up for the next video. Okay, let's move on now. The next important time of the trading day is the New York Open, which occurs a couple of hours after the London Open at 8 AM Eastern Standard Time. But most of the action actually occurs half an hour after the New York Open at 8:30 AM Eastern Standard Time. That's when most of the key data releases such as US CPI, non-farm payrolls, and retail sales get released. If you wanted your algo to avoid news, then a simple method would just be to restrict trading for a short period around this time. So you would generally want to avoid trading the New York session open, particularly if there's an important news release coming up that day. Next, we have the New York option cut, which I mentioned earlier, and that occurs at 10 AM Eastern Standard Time. You can find out what options are expiring each day by going to forexlive.com/orders, and you'll want to pay attention to the large levels that are near current prices, as these levels can have the potential to act as magnets, particularly around the time of the option expiry. Okay, the next key time is the London fix, which is at 4 PM London time. And I'll give you a hint on this one. You can actually find similar patterns to the Tokyo fix around the London fix, but instead of the Japanese yen, you want to focus on the European currencies like the euro and the British pound. So have a play around with it and see if you can develop a strategy here yourself by applying the same concept as the Tokyo fix. So finally we come to the last two key times of the day, which is the New York close at 4 PM Eastern time and the daily close at 5 PM Eastern time. This is when day traders pack up and intraday trading algos unwind their positions for the day. So those are all the key times of the day that you want to be aware of. If you know of any others, please let me know in the comments below. I would suggest going through a couple of charts to study how the price behaves around these key times, and see if you can spot any patterns or signs of market manipulation. The other thing I wanted to cover in this video is how to handle daylight savings. The indicator that you see here, which labels the key times of the day, actually automatically adjusts for daylight savings, whether it's looking at London time or Eastern Standard Time. I'll be sharing the code for this indicator on the Google Sheets workbook, so feel free to go check it out there. But let me show you how to code it up now. Here I've just got an indicator that draws a white vertical line each day at 8 AM UTC time. And if I wanted to plot the London Open, then I can just change the time zone up here from UTC to GMT Standard Time. Note that any time zone that has standard time in the name would automatically adjust for daylight savings. Now let's draw some text next to this line to label it the London Open. And you can see that it drew the line at 7 AM UTC time in September. Whereas if you look at it back in February, it will draw the line at 8 AM UTC time. So that's how we know that it's making the correct adjustment. Now, what if you wanted to use London time and Eastern Standard Time in the same algo or indicator? Well, let me show you a super handy built-in function for that. First we need to create a date time variable and we'll call it London time. And we can set that equal to timezone info dot convert time by system timezone ID, and we'll give it the parameters bars.openTimes index, and the time zone that we want to convert it to is GMT standard time. Now we can change the time zone back to UTC, and whenever we want to refer to GMT standard time, we can just use London time. So for example, we can just say London time.hour equals to 8 and London time.minute equals to 0, and you'll find that the line is still plotted at the correct time. So we can do the same thing for Eastern Standard Time. So let's create a new datetime variable called NY time. And we'll use Eastern Standard Time. Let's plot a new line for the New York Open. So we'll change the London time to NY time. And we'll also change the text to New York Open. And there we have it. So you can use this function in a CBot as well by putting it in the on-tick or on-bar sections. And this will come in handy when we code up the London Open strategy in the next video. Thanks for watching. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and remember to leave a comment below if you want to nominate a London Open strategy for the next video.